Get up and look who's here for the first time in too long. Tim Legler is in.
Yes,
Got a lot of basketball to do. Let's talk about Luka Doncic. Show me what he did last night, guys. Luka out a few days with the injury. He's back. Certainly no rust against the Pistons last night.
He's the most dominant offensive player in the NBA. There's no answer for what he can do. And when he gets cooking early, and you're going to see here in a minute, he gets a little bit of talking coming from that bench. And when you get some opposing talking to Luka Doncic, this is what you end up with.
The reality of it is, when you look at what's around him and where his team is, he should absolutely be in the MVP conversation, despite the fact that his team probably won't finish at the very top. By the way, with that friendly role, he had 24 points in the first quarter. Now we're in the fourth, and he keeps going.
Yeah, he keeps it going. The game, as you can see, they're still within a one-possession game right here. Luka Doncic, he can just beat you anyway. He can post you, take you off the dribble, iso you, shoot you from deep. There, he takes advantage of a smaller matchup in the post.
That one gave him 47. Now he's got 49. This is for 51 legs.
Yeah, unstoppable. That's his go-to, going left to the step back. Bogdanovic, very good defender and long, but not good enough for Luka.
And then under a minute to go. This is still a 2-point game. So they need every one of the 53 points that he finishes with.
Absolutely unbelievable. One of the best clutch players in the NBA. And you can see he got fired up with all the trash talking that was going on. He had a little bit more purpose to that game.
You know what? Every night in the NBA, you might see something, Legs, that has never happened before. And last night we did. It was Damian Lillard and DeJounte Murray putting on a show. How about Dame from downtown?
How about Dame averaging 35 points a game in the month of January? He has been on a heater, and this was a back and forth between Murray and Lillard all night.
But both of them went over 40 points and 0 turnovers. It's the first time in history two players in the same game did that. He was magnificent last night, was DeJounte Murray. 5 minutes to play. It's a 4-point game. Lillard, spectacular.
Yeah, going left, step back, got the lines to 17 free throws made last night as well, but does some damage with 5 threes.
The fans can't believe it. 3 minutes to play. Hawks are down by 8. It's Murray. It's Bogdanovic in the corner. Again, Murray, 40 points, 13 of 26 shooting. Hawks within 5, but in the end, it was too much Dame.
Yeah, no lead is safe in the modern NBA with all of these threes being taken, but Lillard took over at the end of the game. It's crazy. You think about where the Portland is in the West, Greeny. They're in 12th place, 2 losses behind 4.
Yeah.
They can climb 8 spots with a good week.
Yeah, the entire West is just that kind of jammed. Let's run the floor through some of the other action. Steph Curry had 38 last night. Warriors have won 3 straight. Are they getting it going?
Yeah, they are. And best news, Klay Thompson is officially back. He is doing it every single night now. He's consistent. This has to be the most dangerous 500 team at this point in the season in NBA history. Do not count the Warriors out. They are starting to get it together, and they got Wiggins back again, too.
I want to talk more about them in a minute. But first, let's talk about the Sixers. They had a 7-game winning streak. They had a huge lead last night and then lost to Orlando. How about Philly right now?
Yeah, look up complacency in a dictionary. You will see the Sixers last night in the second half. I watched the first half of this game, and I turned it off. I couldn't believe when I followed up later and saw what the score was, how much you want to take on the Sixers on Wednesday night because they play this team again in the same building. I'll take the money line in that one on the Sixers. They've got to be pretty upset with that loss.
And we opened the show this morning showing you this here in Brooklyn. No AD, no LeBron. Nets got the win. Kyrie Irving has been playing pretty well since, not pretty well, very well since Kevin Durant got hurt.
He's been sensational. He has taken over this team offensively, and Brooklyn is a team, when they get everybody back, and you're going to see this run down the stretch after the All-Star game, there's no question that they have to be considered a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference.
Now, for what it's worth, no LeBron last night, no KD last night. It's 11 straight times now their teams have played each other, and they didn't go head-to-head. Last time these two were both on the court was when the Lakers beat the Warriors on Christmas Day of 2018. So we haven't seen the two of the preeminent players of their generation going head-to-head. Now, you made the point earlier that the West is so jammed up that while the Lakers are in 13th place, they're like a decent week away from being in the top 4. Is there a move, one move out there that they can make before the deadline that would make this team a legitimate contender?
They have to add shooting, and you've heard Eric Gordon's name a lot. I think they have to do whatever it takes to get him. I think Houston right now is still trying to make this a seller's market. They're trying to get a little bit more for Eric Gordon than maybe he's worth right now. Now, you look at his numbers, they're down a little bit this year. He's only averaging 12 points a game. It's the lowest three-point percentage I think he's had in maybe a decade. But here's the thing. He's playing on a team that every night does not have a chance to compete. If you don't think that affects a guy mentally, if you put Eric Gordon in a Lakers uniform, I think you're going to see a resurgence, and most importantly, gives them exactly what they need a big-time floor spacer who could also get his own shot. If LeBron or AD on the bench, you can run your offense through him as well. Do what it takes to get him. Bogdanovich in Detroit would be another guy I would strongly consider. Bottom line is they need shooting more than anything else. They need a reliable guy that's got playoff experience. That's why I think Eric Gordon should be at the top of the list.
It's worth pointing out, LeBron, we talk about the chase for the record and everything else. He is playing at a first-team All-NBA level at the age of 38. That's not something we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. So he's been remarkable. Let's go back to Kyrie, though. As they win last night, again, they're now 4-6 since KD got hurt, so they are very much treading water. Let's expand on the thought you gave. If and when those two guys, well, I guess the three of them with Ben Simmons, for whatever exactly that is, is this a team you could see actually winning the East?
Yes, I could. And I think there's several teams obviously in that category. Boston's been the best team in the league all year. Milwaukee obviously floating around. Philadelphia, Brooklyn. It's one of those four teams. When you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving at the top of your roster, and you look at the growth of some of these other guys, you look at what Nick Claxton is doing now every single night as a reliable, rim runner. Ben Simmons, for all of his issues, I think they have finally figured out what to do with him to max out his value, which is take him off the floor in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's the best way to utilize Ben Simmons because he can help your team win. But this is the best stretch I think Kyrie Irving has had since he got to Brooklyn. I mean, he looks locked in, engaged, he's healthy. And now you add a Kevin Durant to the mix with very fresh legs, by the way, with this break he's getting right now. How can you not consider Brooklyn a contender?
No, absolutely. Kyrie has been terrific. He's in every way in a contract year, which also you figure will motivate to some degree. And then it's quite a statement when you make about Ben Simmons. The best way you can do is when the game is being decided, make sure he's nowhere near the floor. But that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
It's hard to disagree. Let's go back to Philly. Again, it's hard to say it coming off of a loss like they had last night to Orlando. But the way they have been playing, right now, we were doing countdown on Saturday. I think the general consensus was they're the biggest threat to Boston in the Eastern Conference. Do you see it that way?
I wouldn't see it that way. I'd still say Milwaukee. And here's why. Look, if the playoffs started today, they'd be the favorite because they're intact right now. But I think when you see eventually Milwaukee gets back to full strength, I still think Milwaukee and Boston are two teams I would take ahead of them. I just like their continuity and role definition. And here's what it's always going to come down to for the Philadelphia 76ers. Do you bet on James Harden in the biggest moments within series in the Eastern Conference? When you play those other teams, we're talking about Boston, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, potentially, and it's a 2-2 series, and you got that game at home in a Game 5, do you count on James Harden to be exactly the same guy he's been in the regular season? Or do you have one of these head-scratching nights? And if you have one of those, you can't survive it. And he just has to prove everybody wrong now at this point. He's playing great right now.
Yeah.
They look unbeatable some nights offensively, and they have the best offensive quartet in the Eastern Conference when you include Maxey and Tobias Harris. It's pretty good top four, but it gets down to Harden in those moments. Do you count on him?
We will talk much more hoops with Legs as the morning goes on, but I will apologize on his behalf if he seems a little cranky this morning. It is because as a lifelong Commanders fan, why were you telling me that this is just your worst nightmare?
It's just, I got to watch this again. We just lived through this 5 years ago with the Eagles, and we got to do it all over again. I thought them winning the Super Bowl was the worst day of my life, and I was wrong, because then I watched the parade. That was even worse. So now we might have to live it again. And I said it starting in week 3. Nobody's beating this team. They're going to win the Super Bowl, and I've got to live through it. As a division rival, living in that area, that's a very difficult proposition.
Is this a Laker team? Right, they're 13th place right now in the West, but they're a good week away from actually being in the top 4. Is this a team you could see making a move or two and actually becoming someone to be reckoned with in the second half and late part of the season?
Well, I think they're going to have to make a move to be put into that category. Look, LeBron James, because of the way he's playing, they're going to be a team that's going to be a difficult matchup for any of those top teams. You're talking about potentially, surviving a play-in, and then you get a Denver, a Memphis. Neither of those teams have made a run all the way to the finals, and you've got to play a healthy LeBron James playing this well. So I think the Lakers do have to add a piece. I think they need to add some shooting and another reliable scorer in case LeBron James getting a blow in the game or Anthony Davis goes down at some point again. So look for them to be active, I think, before the trading deadline. But look, to go on the road 3 straight series in the Western Conference and survive the play-in initially, that's a tall order, but you can't dismiss them because of the way LeBron James looks.
That player you were seeing there is Eric Gordon of the Rockets, who was exactly the kind of shooter that Legs was saying maybe the Lakers would need. Then let's talk about the Nets. Kyrie, again, played great last night. He has been playing great since Kevin Durant got hurt. Durant was playing at an MVP level before he got hurt, and in theory should be able to go back to that when he comes back. Is this a team that we could see actually making it to the NBA Finals?
Yes, absolutely. They're in that group along with Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference. I mean, that's going to be an incredible second round and beyond in the East. And when you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on your roster, and particularly the way Kyrie has looked right now, I think it's his best stretch since he got to Brooklyn. He just looks completely locked in. He looks like a guy that's reminding us of how great he potentially can be. And one thing we know about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, if they are healthy at the right time, neither of those guys is going to run from the light. They embrace the big stage. They embrace pressure. And if you have two guys at the top of your roster that look like that, you've got an absolute chance in the East. There's no question.
And then let's go back to the West to finish it up. Steph is playing great. Klay Thompson is starting to roll a little bit. The Warriors, who've been so up and down early, are starting to win some games. Have we, to quote Mark Twain, have the reports of the demise of the Golden State Warriors been greatly exaggerated?
They have. I picked them to repeat before the season, and I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't had some doubts about that prediction. But at the same time, you just want to wait for a team that's had this many deep postseason runs. The regular season is just not as pressing to a team like the Golden State Warriors as some other teams. So all along, you're kind of just waiting to see. And for me, the biggest storyline around this team by far is the fact that Klay Thompson looks like he is back at the level he was at his absolute peak in Golden State. He's consistent again. He's highly efficient again. He has these quarters where he erupts again. That, to me, has been the biggest storyline, because if he couldn't quite get there, I don't think they were going to have enough with some guys getting older and whatnot. But the fact that he looks that good, I think the Golden State Warriors absolutely still potentially could have a run. And by the way, when it's all said and done with all the stuff that's going on with this team, I think they end up third in the Western Conference going into the playoffs.
Behind Denver and Memphis, so you got the young guys, the young guns, and then you would get maybe Golden State and maybe somewhere in there LeBron. So it could be a very interesting postseason. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.